of the class tonight is the Vinaya. It's all around vowed morality and what role that plays in the big picture of enlightenment. So out of all the Buddhist practices, and particularly the key, we keep talking karma and emptiness, then if it's all too hard and you need some anchor to amplify the results of our actions and to know what actions to do, then vowed morality is a teaching the Buddha gave right throughout his teachings. They got collected into one piece of work, the Vinaya Sutra, and this collection of vows, promises, things to keep, if we're not sure what to do when to try and accelerate our path to enlightenment, then Vinaya is the thing. It's also the teaching, last week we did the Wheel of Life. It's also in the Vinaya Sutra is where the earliest description of the structure of painting a wheel of life is. So it's a very important piece of work. And in tonight's class, we're going to cover where's it come from, why is it called Vinaya, what does that mean, what's the essence of it, what are these vows and how many are there and the rest. And we'll slightly look at correlations between certain actions. The Buddha said, if you can't think about it, do these things or don't do these things. And we'll look at correlations. What would be the karmic result of keeping these promises? So if you think about it that way, the way we're pulling it out of scripture to share it is details and list and the rest. But what you're really doing is saying, on my pathway to enlightenment, besides understanding karma and emptiness, which is the ultimate way things exist, what do I need to generate, create, plant, in which way to make them a fast result into awakening? And that's Vinaya. Yeah, is that fair? Cool. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think there's lots. I'll add as we go on.
Great.
Thank you.
So let's start. And since we're together, let's do this thing together, shall we? Okay. And here you place your minds to the highest motivation possible. If you're not muted, please mute yourself so there's no echo. Hi, Danielle. Nice to see you. And really, can you plant a seed in your mind, the suspension of normal, the seed that perceives it possible to see every being free from suffering, every being of all time. Imagine the power of just that thinking. So let's go. Sashi Puki Jishin Metokram Rira Lingchi Nyunde Gampadi Sangye Shindu Amite Gawargi Droken Namda Shinla Chuparsho Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami Sangye Judang Zogi Joknam Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuchi Daki Chenyengi Pesanamki Rula Benchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chudang Soki Choknam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuchi Daki Chenyengi Pesanamki Drola Benchir Sangye Druparsho Sangye Chudang Zoki Shognam La Janchu Bardu Dakni Gyapsuchi Daki Chenyengi Pesanamki Drola Benchir Sangye Druparsho. You want to drive?
No.
This is weird because we both want to drive now. We're like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
No, I just know where the clicks are coming. You could do it.
Fine. So, like I said, we're in Vinaya, Buddhist discipline, and we have such crappy, I do have such crappy associations of discipline. When I got this course, it's like, don't tell me what to do. I ran away from Catholicism because I didn't want them to tell me what to do. And now I've landed in, here are your 10 virtues that you should keep. Sounds like the 10 Commandments, piece off. You know, so that's what my mind did early days of understanding Vinaya. And now I feel it completely different. It's not a restriction, it's a freedom. But oh my God, it took me so long to get this. So Vinaya in Sanskrit, or Dulwa in Tibetan. Dulwa means to tame. Oh, you can do it. Yeah, go ahead. To tame or control is used when taming a wild horse. And that's a reference to the wild monkey mind that we had, to tame it, to bring it back to focus. Yeah. And all those mental afflictions, the things that actually create our suffering, the stuff we do with our minds and what that motivates. I get upset. There's a mental affliction. If I don't tame it, I'm going to say some shitty thing to someone. I just planted 2 karmas that I have to eat up. So Dulwa is a kind of freedom from that mental afflictions because you've tamed the mind before it gets busy creating all your suffering. And that's why karma and emptiness is the key, right? So Master Nuchu Dharma Bhadra is where we're getting all these commentary from on the Sutra of Discipline, right? Can I go? Yeah. About 500 AD. And Master Gunaprabha, yeah. So just so you know where this is coming from, and what it's supposed to do is tame the stuff in our minds and then in our actions before we get ourselves in trouble. You could yell at someone or think something bad of someone, and because the next immediate moment nothing happens, you think you got away with it. You did not. You've eaten that, you've planted a seed, and it's growing and multiplying and multiplying. And then 6 weeks later, a year later, 3 months later, some crappy thing happens to you. It happens to be similar to way back when, but we don't remember. And that day you didn't do anything bad. But you're like, why did this happen to me? And Duwa, the understanding of the promises we keep to tame the mental afflictions, begins to help us see the correlations between what we think, say, and do and what happens to us. Because the way it appears is an illusion. It's not really the way it really happens. You saying something and either someone getting upset or laughing at you, it's not coming from the words. That's empty of a nature. Do you see how it's the key? We're good? So that's what we're diving into. It is considered the Buddhist highest teachings. In fact, if you keep Dulwa, if you keep Vinaya, if you keep these vows, it's as if Buddha is right there, meaning an enlightened being helping you break the mental afflictions and get closer to enlightenment, go through the steps of enlightenment. And they say that, I think it's for 2 reasons. Let's have a look. They are sufficient to represent the entire instruction of whatever the Buddha taught. A condensed version, if you keep these promises, if you act on these promises, these vows, these commitments to tame your mental affliction, it is like the pith of the Buddha's teachings. Yeah, as if you don't have to go study, but you should, right? You should investigate it. You should be certain. But once you're certain, then you can relax, and that can be a freedom. Yeah. And it's often seen as a substitute for the Buddha themselves. Yeah. So keeping these are like Buddha's with you all the time, because that's what Buddha spoke. They said, if you want to be free, do these things. We're good? Can I get thumbs up so I can see confirmation? So I'm a little blind, so I can't see facial expressions. So you can put thumbs up, but be frowning and I won't know, right? You can go, oh, they're happy. Yeah, thanks, Chrissy. Not frowning. Here we go. Tripitaka, who's heard of that? And not from the 80s series Monkey Magic. If anyone's old here, like me, there was this awesome series, which was really badly dubbed into English from Hong Kong in the 80s called Monkey Magic. And there was a monk traveling with these, it was the Monkey King story from China, right? So Tripitaka was a monk, right? Who was traveling in this story, and he was like equal to the Buddha or something. So that's the first time I heard the word Tripitaka, naming a monk, or in a very badly dubbed Hong Kong miniseries. You should look it up, Monkey Magic. They're going like this. Will you go away, please? It was like that. Yeah, it's really fun to watch. Tripitaka, what's it mean? Tri is three, and Pitaka is basket. So when all the Buddhist teachings were being collected and put together, they were grouped into three baskets. Generally speaking, all the teachings on ethics, on Vinaya, were put together. The Vinaya Pitaka, yeah? All the teachings on concentration, meditation, etc., were put in a basket, literal basket to keep the scrolls. Yeah, and all the teachings on emptiness or wisdom were put together. And so if you're a real Buddhist, you'd have these three baskets, and you could pull from the morality or ethics teachings of the Buddha, or so it was the first, I guess, hard drive, Google Drive organization system, three baskets you carry around. So that's where it comes from. Do you want to share a little more?
Yeah, actually, so we were just listening to a presentation from work, and I was talking to Stephen about this like business concept called the flywheel. It's like, oh, what's the flywheel effect? And you all probably, if you haven't heard of this, you've been subject to it. But it's basically when brands or businesses, they'll create something that's like sticky fly paper, where they'll hook you with one thing to get you to do the next thing, which will get you to do the next thing, which brings you back to point A. So it's A begets B, begets C, begets A, and you go deeper and deeper into this flywheel. It's called the flywheel effect. Tripitaka is the Buddhist version of that. So the point being, those three baskets, those three trainings, there's a relationship between them. They're not just three random baskets I'll pull up from whichever one I feel each day. No, there's actually a sequence to them, and they deepen each other. So the best way I can describe that is, if you have ever tried to meditate after being in a fight with your mom on the phone. I remember distinctly the first time I tried to do that. And it's that feeling, that's how I think of ethics is the absence of regret in my mind, the absence of doubt in my mind, because I've done what I knew I should do. And so I see people nodding, but like, whatever that, I don't remember the details of the fight with my mom, but it doesn't matter whether I was right or not. It didn't feel good. When I sat down to meditate, it wasn't all the to-do list garbage that I had to quiet. It was my own conscience. So it was very obvious to feel this link between the behavior in my mind, my conscience, the things, the ball and chain that I'm dragging with me, right? Of the things I wish I had done, or the things I wish I hadn't done. Right? If I have an ethical life, that's clean. So I can concentrate. I actually have an ability to meditate. So for anyone who's like, how do I get deeper into my meditations? Amp up your ethical life, your ethics. There's a connection there. And then for those of you who've meditated with us or heard anything in these courses, it matters what you meditate on. Right? We talked about it last week. If the minimum motivation to become a Buddhist, to even meditate, is actually that you think about this mind stream after the moment of death, right? Then what are you possibly going to spend your precious life moments meditating on? All signs point to the highest possible thing: wisdom, emptiness, understanding the nature of how everything comes to be. So after you have to build up a meditative practice, right? You have to start by being able to follow the breath, to just still the mind. But once you do that, and they use exactly that analogy, it's like a body of water, and you're going from choppy waves to a still surface. Now, what's the point of having a still surface of a lake? The point here is that you can then reflect something sublime off of that still surface. The metaphor is actually, you can reflect the moon. Hopefully that brings you back to last class, the moon, that unstained thing that the Buddha is pointing to outside. Yeah, Michelle is doing it outside the wheel of life. The highest wisdom, that very thing could be reflected on the surface of your own mind. Because you've had ethics, because you've trained in concentration, you can realize wisdom. It's a code word for the direct experience of that wisdom. Now, the flywheel continues, right? Because the idea is, once you've had that deep realization, ethics starts to make even more sense. right? Any part of you now, which is like, oh, why do I need to do all that stuff? Let me just get to the deep realizations. What happens when you actually have communion with the ultimate is that you realize that ethics is the most important thing. And it becomes a joy. Like, I think that's when the liberating aspect of ethics becomes revealed. So it makes even more, you go even deeper into your ethical practice. So you can concentrate even more beautifully, and the wisdom ripens, and it keeps going. Buddhist flywheel effect. That's Tripitaka.
Cool.
Oh, this is me too.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, this is, and you know, we've always had a version of this in every class. When ethics won't work just because we're teaching it in a Buddhist class, right? Or ethics won't work just because we're telling you to do it. It won't work self-existently. There's no list of things out there that if you follow them exactly, you're going to get to enlightenment. Or like, this is the way I used to think of like, oh, if I get 100% on all my ACI homework, I'll get to nirvana. Like, it's not, it doesn't work that way. I'll just save you a lot of time. It doesn't work that way. There has, this is where I was at. Like, my whole life, that's how it had worked, right? You go to class, you pay attention, you put in the answers, you graduate. I was like, where's my certification? Where's my enlightenment certification?
Certificate, please.
And it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work. Ethics doesn't work if you're doing it for someone else's validation. It doesn't work if you're like, oh, I hope everyone's seeing me do my 6 times a day book. I hope my teacher knows how good I'm being. It's not going to do anything. And as Jason Kappa here says, the real point of ethics, if we do that, is lost. If we're doing it because we think it's make it for the honor or the gifts. When does it work? Because it does work. It works only if the right motivation is there. If renunciation is there, which, remember, renunciation, it doesn't mean I'm going to give up my job. I'm going to give up wanting to be in a relationship. I'm going to give up wanting to be in the world and be of service to the world. It does not mean that. It means I'm going to give up the broken way of doing things. I'm going to give up the way of doing things that wasn't getting me the results consistently that I wanted. And that result includes the fact that I'm in a body that no matter how hard I take care of it, no matter how nice I am to it, without doing something in particular with my mind, it's just hurtling towards inevitable death. That ultimate suffering, wanting to be free from that, is renunciation. If I do ethics with that motivation, then something else is happening. That's the point.
Because it's a different seed being planted, right? Oh, I'm a good boy. I did all the list. That seed is being planted. Selfish good boy, right? You've got to get your mind to a place that the right seed is being planted. I see the nature of everything. Now you're electrified to reality. Every other bastard's going through the same thing, and as blind as I am, as best as I can do it, I'm going to maintain my renunciation. The old way doesn't always work. There's got to be another way. Just that hint of that, that's a different motivation. If you can add for the sake of everyone else who is just like me, doesn't matter what they look like on the outside, then you're really amplified that seed. And that seed, if you read the Diamond Cutter Sutra, that's infinitely more beneficial. Having an understanding of emptiness and doing a bodhisattva activity, infinitely more beneficial than giving 1 billion planets covered in gold to a Buddha. That's what the sutra says. Because you've just planted, you cracked the illusion by keeping ultimate reality, emptiness, in your mind. Therefore, the result must be the cracking of illusion. It's stunning, right? So you sort of got to relax around it, but you can't, because initially we think, oh, it's a restriction. I've got to be a good boy. And that's the karma arising. That's what you're breaking for the sake of everyone else. So I hope you got the taste of that, right? Vinaya is like, oh my God, here's a recipe to liberate my mind. So watch what's being placed in your mind. And that's what the 6 times book is like, can you investigate what happened in your mind today? Because if you're not doing it consciously, you're not doing it. It's just another normal thing. So anyway, that's that. What else?
Yeah, I like it. That feels like the connection between like trying to just quell all the symptoms versus getting to the root cause. You can think about it that way. Like Vinaya done with that in your mind is getting to the root cause, rather than being like, oh, this symptom, like whack-a-moling the symptoms, right? This symptom's coming up, let me whack it down. This symptom's coming up, let me do this. It's actually, let me get to the thing that creates all symptoms, good or bad, because they're ending.
This is you.
This is me. Okay, so now we're talking, and this might sound familiar. We talked a bit about it in the Bodhisattva Vows class, where we talked about the 4 different sets of vows, right? So we've talked about Bodhisattva vows, we've talked about refuge vows, we've talked a little bit about tantric or secret vows. This is the foundation underneath all of them, the Pratimoksha vows. Ish.
That's close enough.
Close enough.
These are the ones that will liberate you.
These are the ones that will liberate you. We'll get into them. So they're called Pratimoksha vows, or individual freedom vows. And the reason they're called individual freedom vows is simple. It's the individual who follows these vows will get free, versus the individual who doesn't follow these vows will not.
Yeah.
That's it. And the point here, this is what Hector was getting at in the beginning when we were talking about taming mental afflictions, right? The thing you have to tame in your mind. Well, there's 84,000 of them, is what these teachings say. 84,000 ways that your mind can be harassed, or ways that your mind will react to what is seeming to pop up in your reality. And that those reactions are actually tangling my mind into further mistake. And so there are really 84,000 ways to create my own suffering without realizing it, or completely realizing it. I know when I yell back at someone, even though I might feel, justified. I know there's something there that's wrong, that can't give me what I want. Anyway, so there's 84,000 of those. Out of them, there's 10 heavy hitters, the top 10 that'll hurt you the most, and also that are the ones that come up in our minds the most. This was the same 2,500 years ago as it is now. And at their essence, we're going to dive into what they are, but at their essence, it's saying, stop hurting other people. And that includes yourself. And it doesn't mean, oh, well, I don't go around punching people. It doesn't mean that. You can hurt them with your words. Even deep, or even more subtle, you can hurt them with your thoughts. That's the level we're talking about. So that's what they are at their essence. Now, there's a whole course about this, right? We're in the review of a review. So this is ACI9, The Ethical Life. Here's a little teaser. When you do that course in its entirety, the study of vows is actually split up into 6 parts. So it's what's their basic nature, the ways you can divide them. So for example, those who are in the Medicine Buddha retreat, we have the option of taking one-day vows, right? Versus if you're ordained, a nun or monk's vows, and there's intermediate and advanced and all. Is it advanced? No, maybe just,
there is.
There's different levels.
There's 8 different types of Pratimoksha vows. You have refuge vows, you have Pratimoksha vows, you have Bodhisattva vows, and then you have tantric vows. But within, and these are all fine, more fine ways to clear your mind from the 84,000 mental afflictions, and some ways to do the opposite of the harming, take care of others. So there's a kind of upward spiral from the results of our actions. In Pratimoksha vows, you'll get nuns and monks vows, both novice and the rest. You'll get layperson's vows, you get one-day vows. There's a list of 8 individual freedom vows. The individual that keeps them will experience liberation forced upon them by their karmas, but amplified because it's a vow.
Yeah. I'm going to address a question that Kelly sent in because I really like it. Is there a reason we're learning about Pratimoksha vows after learning about Bodhisattva vows? Like, you're like, what about the order of this? Why didn't we do it sequentially? And I think it's actually related to Tripitaka and the Flywheel Effect, because, and we're going to get to this later in the class, there's a point at which any teaching, and whether it's a formal, Buddhist class teaching or not, anything you hear lands on your ears like the perfect teaching, the perfect thing that you need to hear. And I think this is similar, because I think of it this way. If I had learned that there was this thing called Pratimoksha vows, and it had nothing to do with becoming a bodhisattva, it had nothing to do with waking up for the sake of all beings, I probably wouldn't have been as interested. And I'd be like, oh, okay, here's a nice list of 10 things. But now in your mind, you have this connection, right? In order to be a bodhisattva, I have to have my Pratimoksha vows. It's based on that foundation. They're related, right? I can't free others until I'm free myself. So that could be one way to think of it. It's a cool question, Kelly, and it happens all of ACI. You want it to be like a ladder, but it's more like a puzzle.
It's like a 3D puzzle.
Yeah.
And I think Geshe Michael designed it deliberately. Yeah. So you get like the first 6 ACI courses give you a summary and a flavor. Then the next 6 give you more depth about those 6.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially doing the first one, which is, the 3 principal parts, understand renunciation. If you get that, you'll know how to move towards something that is personally liberating. And then don't do it just for yourself. Bodhisattva activity, which are all the other courses. And then you can't do that without wisdom, understanding why it works, doing it just because it's just another widget. So you could, after completing all the courses to any year, you can go back to the first 14 verses that we taught, and everything will pop in your mind beautifully. Yeah, even the tantric courses, the more advanced courses that are predicated on these, you can still go back to the first 14 verses of the Lamsa Namsum, and it will explode with meaning. You're like, whoa.
It's probably already happened to you. Like, think of that favorite book or that favorite song, right? And you listen to it now and you're like, wow, I didn't hear that in the lyric the first or second or third or fifth time, but it was always there. But your mind is somehow changing as it goes and meets it. Or your favorite book, you're like, oh, there's stuff between the lines here I didn't know. The same thing starts to happen with this stuff.
I think this is still yours.
This is still me, yes. So now we're going, so okay, these are like it's basically 5 + 1 lifetime lay person's vows that you take. Then these would be considered your Pratimoksha vows. You generally take them with your refuge vows. And just to like, the coolest thing to me here is that you can be a vow holder without being like an ordained person. You don't have to, if you want to do the whole monk and nun, life, cool. That's radical and amazing. Go do that. But if you don't, you want to be in the world. That's why it's called layperson. You can be in the world and inside have this system by which you are deciding how you want to be in the world. So I think that's really cool. And it means that no one needs to know what you're doing. It actually makes it better that way, I think. So unordained morality is what we're talking about. The top 5 things are probably things you've heard of before, like in kindergarten. Just like things you shouldn't do. You shouldn't kill people. You shouldn't steal things. But we're getting a little more subtle here. And the way I like to think about these is just like Bodhisattva vows, there's the thing you shouldn't do, and there's the thing that you should do, right? The implication of it. So sure, I'm not going around killing humans or human fetuses on a fetus? Feti, on a daily basis. But am I thinking about protecting life? Right? That would be the question there. I don't steal when I go out grocery shopping, but maybe I'm stealing people's time when I'm late to a meeting.
No, right? You are. I promise you are. Sorry.
I was late to our meeting.
It's my pet peeve.
You are, right? Or maybe I'm not being as generous, right? That would be the opposite of that stingy mindset. Not lying here. It's not just lying about anything, right? Think about if karma and emptiness are based on it's the magnitude and the intensity of what you plant in your mind. If you have a connection to a spiritual practice, and then if you have a connection to a practice that reveals truth to you, and then you decide to lie about it, what are you doing? It's like it's so many mixed messages to your consciousness. Yeah. So this here is exaggerating how much you meditate, right? Or, I mean, really, at its ultimate, it's saying that you've seen emptiness directly when you have it, right? That would be the Bodhisattva vow version of that. Now, not committing adultery, you can get really subtle here, right? There's like this concentric circle theory of at its center is actually cheating with someone's sworn partner, right? But outside of that, it's me eyeing the cute guy on the subway, but I don't know if he's taken. Like all these fantasies going on in my mind, I have no idea. So it's watching yourself there. And on the opposite, it's all the beautiful partnerships I see around me, actually rejoicing in them, being happy for them. So that's that. And then not taking intoxicants. The idea with this one is that a state of mind under the influence would be more likely to break any other vow that you have. That's really it. That's the basis of that. Any vow that you have, you are more likely to break it under the influence of intoxicants. And then you add this +1 here. Going against the advice is on going for refuge. And this, it's interesting. This has to do with giving up hurting other people. I don't know, I'm looking at your notes here because I wasn't sure what this one was, because I think traditionally of going for refuge, right? Going for refuge to the 3 jewels, the emptiness of the 3 jewels, but it sounds like this one is, it's taking your individual freedom vows and actually making it about other people, right? At this stage, where it's really, I'm basically going to stop hurting other people.
But also the advisors on refuge are saying to us, what are you placing your hopes on? Yeah, if you get angry at people, if you take people's stuff, if you go around the world like you used to, you're not taking refuge in the emptiness of things, in the real course karma that's producing your reality. So you can do the 5 layperson's vows, but unless you really have refuge, it doesn't have jet fuel to take off, because where is your refuge? And all of these should have underneath them the understanding, the wisdom that everything I do, finite detail, everything without exception, will have implications in my reality later. When I open that door, I can't blame anyone for it. Whatever I'm experiencing, it comes from me. Oh, what a shitty thing I planted. But instead of getting upset with yourself or angry, you, because of refuge, you instantly get to work. How do I undo that for future? And then how do, with the motivation, how do I help others not do that? So this is about taming our minds. If you want a layperson's way of taming your mind, you got 5 here, and then you got the refuge vows. And that will give us a list and the 10 non-virtues, right?
Which we're getting to.
You basically have a roadmap as you begin your personal responsibility to transform what appears to what is. Yeah. So all of a sudden you have the real blueprint for your mind. And to get a head start, it's the quick start guide when you get your new iPhone, right? Or your new laptop. It's like quick start, press the button, transfer the data. The quick start guide is these Vinaya vows, these promises. Because what's the correlation between not killing a living thing? Well, you'll see the correlations. The implication is your living thing will diminish. So you want to have a non-diminishing living experience, take care of other living things. It's not hard to see the correlations, but we're going to get trippy on those correlations. Is that working for you? Like, do we understand so far? So imagine you're on a career to enlightenment. You realize your personal responsibility. You've given up, you've got renunciation, you've given up the old way of thinking you're going to get stuff. You still have to do all the same stuff, go to work, wake up next to someone, but your experience of it is different. Your motivation of it is different. And you have this commitment to tame the animal that wants to hurt others and change its habit to take care of others. And you now have a list, a blueprint to say, try these. So I want you to imagine, fast forward, like you've taken all these vows, this is really serious, I understand it. I'm living a life according to taming my mind, and you're beginning to see results. You're a year into it, right? You keep your vows perfectly. When there is a sexy person in the subway, there's lots of sexy people in the subway, right? When there is a sexy person in the subway and you're with a partner, it doesn't mean pretend there isn't a sexy person in the subway. That would be lying, yeah? Shit, I promise not to lie, right? So you acknowledge that the beauty that appears right there, the stunningness of that person is a valid perception. And it came from a good karma. Don't kill it. But now what you do, the strategy to keep it, renunciation says, don't go for it. It's not yours to take. Consider if there's with someone else, or if you're with someone else. The strategy to keep that goodness is the old way, the thing we've renounced. So don't not acknowledge the sexiness, the beauty, the stunningness all around you. On the contrary, be really excited that your mind can see beauty all around you. A sexy lip shape, which other people might seem weird, you know, like, or a certain kind of no hair or beard. Maybe you're really attracted to beards, yeah? And you say, how sexy is that beard? And it's like one person, Stephen. And It's not to say avoid it. Oh, sorry, there's two. Harry Stevens, like looking at your beard now. Yeah. And Anthony. Oh, there's all these beards. And Gabriel, now I'm seeing beards everywhere. Stephen, don't look. No, look. What I'm saying is beauty will arise. Don't quash it. Ride it. Ride it. Rejoice that you see that person, but don't eat it up for you, because that will kill it. That will kill it. Yeah, and it'll kill a whole bunch of other things instead. So if you're single and they're single, go ahead. But if you're not single and you're not sure, think about it. At least it puts that carefulness in your mind. Does that help understand how to make this practical? Yeah? Does that help?
That helps so much. It helped me. It also made me think about going back to the fact that these are 5, right, plus 1, and then we're going to go through the other 5, thinking about the top 10 and the fact that if out of the 84,000, these really are the ones that for centuries are still present in human minds. It's actually the thing that makes us have a human mind. I better have a relationship around each of them, right? Because to your point, it's not that I'm just going to, it's not that anytime I find myself in a situation where I'm about to steal, I just shut it off, right? Or it's like, how am I going to relate to that thing? Because it's going to keep coming up over and over again.
Some impulse made you do it. So you got to observe it and go, oh, check that out. Yeah, you'll fail plenty of times, but it's not a failure if you have resistance to it. And this inquisitive investigation says, where's the emptiness of this? Why would I want to be someone's partner that, even though my partner's sitting right next to me? Mm-hmm. What would let me think, if I was in his shoes or their shoes, what would it feel like for an old bearded guy to stare down a sexy creature? You know, like, think about the reality of it, and then it quickly should shift for you. But what I wanted to get is this feeling of, imagine having that kind of power over the habits of your mind. Imagine having tamed that mind to the point where you can acknowledge the appearances around you and your mind is focused, clear. You've kept track of the virtue and you see it growing. Imagine that goodness, yeah? The reason I'm building you up is because you can also...
sorry, it's related to the next thing, but because it's from Karuna, I really want to ask this question. And I think you'll have to get into these minutiae on the next slide as well. Karuna has a question, and obviously she's studied this before and for a very long time. The human fetus part is getting to her. Why is that there? How are we supposed to relate to that?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask Buddhist hardline, abortion is killing a living being, yeah? And because it's a living, experiencing, sentient creature. And I know that can be controversial. The choice is still the mother's. No one's saying don't. Someone made a choice for you. So in context of an American experience, right, or a modern world experience, the perception that you're stopping a life will have consequences. It might be that it's life-threatening to you. It might be that it's the child of a terrible thing, etc. It's still the perception that we're destroying a living thing. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you can't do anything about that, which is Sarah's then question. Actually, absolutely, all the time we're using like this Swiss Army knife of purification, right? That goes back to ACI17. There's absolutely, however you relate to whenever the moment of life is, you can do something to relate to that act, to undo the parts of it which you know are going to hurt you, and to amp up the parts that you did out of beautiful intention.
Yeah. So it's not to say someone's watching you and you get to choose what you're pushed and capable of doing and not doing. And if you understand past lives, you've done all of these and worse many times before. So it's not like, oh my God, I looked at a guy in the subway. Sorry, you've done terrible things to other humans. This consciousness of you has done terrible things to other humans for a time without beginning. And there is a specific process to clean up any negativity we have around these vows. Anytime we've come close to breaking them or breaking them, there's this 2-week cycle where people with vows get together and go through to clean up any negativity. It's called Sojong, and it's a practice around the new moon and the full moon. And in that ceremony, you get to clean up all the 10 non-virtues and anything else, any bodhisattva vows, etc., etc. But to get into more detail on that, you have to do ACI9. Yeah, you'll see also there's some question mark around the next slide. I had some issues around,
Not there yet,
We're not there. Okay. Yeah.
There are a few more
So
questions.
Karina, was that okay? Yep. You want to ask some more
Just,
questions?
They're related to this difference between an embryo and a fetus and contraception. How do we?
Good question. So if you're a Tibetan or Indian at the time of the Buddha, or no more than 60 years ago, as soon as the cells divide, there's consciousness there. That's the bottom line. Yeah. This thing has inertia. It's no longer just like a crystal growing. It has consciousness. It perceives. At some point, it's aware of perceiving. I'm warm, something. Yeah. We in the West would say, wait till the brain or whatever. So if you rewound 60 years, all of the time before that, Buddhists would conceive of any pregnancy as a living thing. Any pregnancy as a living thing. So your mind, to stop that, would be breaking that vow in a hardline Buddhist thing. Yeah. So at what point, but if you want to get subtle, at what point are you really breaking? Is this when your mind conceives of ending something that was living? That's it. And it's not like I want to pretend that I did or didn't. Your mind will conceive of a reality, and that's when you really broke the vow. Technically, Buddha said, whenever the cells start dividing. Does that help? Mm-hmm. And there's so much more, like course 9, we can go into so many questions, right? We'll get stuck here. Don't get stuck here. This is one. Adultery is the same. Yeah, sexual misconduct. There's a whole bunch of stories in there. That was the one I was stuck in.
It's kind of cool because it helps you realize all the things that my mind just did without me being aware of it. Mm-hmm. It's like the same thing when you start to meditate and you're like, what is this insanity? But it was always there. You just started to notice it now. It's kind of like that with all these. There's so many decisions I realized I was making with all these implications, but I just didn't think about that. I didn't think about how it would affect me or others in this moment or the future. I feel like an ethical practice, a practice of morality, it's like you investigating, archaeologically digging. That's what you say. You become an archaeologist of your own mind. So it's not just why did I do this, but why did I have the impulse to want to do this? And why do I have the impulse to want to keep doing this? It just, you keep digging and digging till you get to the source.
I'll give you an example so it's not so controversial as to talk about abortion, right? Sexy people on the subway. So Hector's with Steven. He's pretty sexy, right? There's plenty of sexy people in New York. Like there's some fashion, and there's all shapes and colors and genders that are sexy to me. Yeah, beauty is beauty. And so I'm sitting with Steven on the subway. I'm pretending to be on the phone, but there's someone really hot over there, right? So I place my phone that way so I can look at the hot person. You've all done it, yeah. When I catch my mind really wishing, look at me, look over here, right? When I stop appreciating the beauty that's appeared and thinking of its emptiness, right? Because it's empty of a nature, that person over there who has a life and everything, but to me, something magnetized me to that. The human impulse is sexy time, I want you for me. That will have that kind of consequence. And in addition, the consequence of ignoring my partner, who, if he was doing that to me, I'd get hurt. I'm aware of that, even if I'm hiding it, yeah? So I also said, realize it's beauty arising for you. So my job at that moment as a practitioner of many years is to consider that why would my eyes be called to those shapes and colors as beauty and bliss? It must be a Buddha. Then I can keep looking at them. Yeah. And I'm not wanting sexy time. I'm now trying to turn a mundane desire into the same flavor. It's still a desire, connect, but it's a Buddha, right? If at any time my mind wavers into some kind of selfish desire that would hurt Stephen or compromise that person, I must immediately turn around and do something else. And that's what I do. Yeah. So you ride to the edge of amplifying the goodness that arises and you don't flip over. This is the practice. And it's the same. And what is it? It's your mind moving, conceiving of like beauty, and then very quickly it goes desire, want. My job as a practitioner, because things are empty, is to transform that. At what point is killing a human. Hopefully no one's here killing a human with intent, right? No one's walking around, oh, this afternoon I'm off to kill some people. You're probably not doing that. Unlikely that many of you have had to do an abortion, but if you did, you can purify that too. Yeah, it's not like, oh, I feel guilty, the Buddhists weren't accepting it. It's not that at all. It's your mind shifting towards a reality and then working with that reality. Like in the subway, I went, the consequences if I keep doing this would be that, so I'll refrain and I'll rethink what I just did, right? That Buddha taught me a lesson or something. For those of you that don't know, I think I heard Geshe Michael say this. The reason he took monk's vows was because he was involved in an abortion after school. Yeah. So because he got someone pregnant that had an abortion, whatever, and then he heard these things, he then renounced relationship and took on the monk's vows. We think of these things like Westerners. I used to anyway. Think of these things as Catholic, the Pope is going to come and hate me, or God's got a list. You're responsible for everything that you do, say, and think, everything. And karma is equal opposite reaction. Harming produces harm. Doesn't matter if it's justified, it's just harm. Yeah. But if you're cornered into it and you have to, then you do it with the best. I'm cornered into doing this and I still intend to do something to rectify it or transform it. I hope that answered some questions. Can I get thumbs up? Yeah, good, good. Now you all know what I do in the subway. Hey, Manika. So imagine that you actually are keeping these things and you're in control, right? You're taming your mind. You're like watching the impulses and so on, and you're riding this wave. You can also break them. Yeah. Oh no, what's this? Is this right?
Yeah, how to lose the vows.
Yeah, you can lose the vows. You can lose the vows in all sorts of ways. Thanks. Mm-hmm. You can formally give them back saying, I don't want to promise anymore. And so the amplified context of keeping these states of mind, formally giving them back, reduces. You still collect karma. It's not that you don't, right? But it's the results won't be as fast. You're not so amped about it. You can die, right? And then you lose the vows. You have to take them again the next life. These two are interesting to me, were interesting to me when I heard them, because this is 2,500 years ago. I'm like, wait, what's this about having both sexual organs suddenly appear? Right? So monks and nuns are like, wait, you're not a monk anymore. Something just changed. What the hell? So I found that very interesting. And then changing your sex more than 3 times. Yeah. The propensity for keeping these vows changes. And this will make more sense once you get to more advanced practices more subtle practices about the same thing. We're keeping a kind of masculine energy or feminine energy as your predominant, and the attributes related to those energies, right? And the mixing up of that and being a kind of back and forth in relation to those energies will reduce your capacity to stay single-pointedly on vows. Again, more detail, but it was an interesting thing for me, those two ways of losing vows. So if you can take them again, if you change gender, you can take them again if you change gender. But if you keep doing that thing, something else is at play that is your refuge and not these. Yeah, according to the system. And if you lose your core of virtue, do you remember the 5 immediate misdeeds? Yeah. I don't know. There are actions that you do that will just cut the root of all the bag of goodness you've developed in your mind, like being angry at a bodhisattva, for example. Yeah. And maintaining that anger and having wrong views, etc. So there are ways to lose them. Yeah.
Can I just add something to what you just said? Made me think, and I see it being discussed in the chat. I hope around ethics and vows, it's starting to become, it's not just black and white or right and wrong or good and bad. It's what's the thing that's going to get me out of suffering versus the thing that's going to keep me in suffering. Yeah. That's the way you measure whether your vowed practice is working or not. Are you becoming more free? Free meaning, is your mind more tamed? Are you able to place it where you want to place it? Are you able to stop thinking about yourself ultimately and actually place it on other people? that is, it's not, am I being good or bad? Is it, am I getting out of suffering, or am I getting further into deception?
And when you walk into a subway, if you're doing it and everyone in the cart is appearing divine and you no longer want them for yourself, you know you're onto something. The subway didn't change. Yes, what you did in your mind changed.
Yeah.
How are we doing for time?
I think we're good. We
great.
have another hour.
Here we go.
So for those who are doing the coursework, we're actually done now with class 7 and we're on to class 8. So you'll notice the little circle colors change. You'll see it in the slides, but now that's why we're back on questions 1 and 2. We just went through all the questions of class 7. Now we're on class 8.
Yeah, but I guess before we move on, what I want you to know is there is a whole set of practices around taming your mind, vowed morality to amplify and speed up the steps to enlightenment, which require us to look at the main things that will disturb us, not taking care of other people's lives or partners and so on. And where are we paying attention to minimize what we're seeding our minds with? And here is the list if you want to go straight into it. But of course, you don't blindly go into it. Buddha said you have to chew and think and so on, all those things. Even this, especially the things we have questions around, you know. And for me, it took a while to go to tackle the sexual misconduct stuff with Geshe Michael and other teachers. Okay, good. Can I get thumbs up? Not too heavy. People are like, oh.
Did you go through the results of keeping these?
I did not. Do you?
I mean, I think we touched on it. This is just know that there are results of keeping these vows, right? Yeah. Everything you do has a result. These ones in particular, they say, this should make more sense after the Death in the Realms class that we did, right? That, okay, well, if I'm forced to take another birth, if I'm not going to get enlightened in this one lifetime, at least I'll be reborn as a human or a pleasure being. Right? At least I won't be reborn in one of the lower realms. That would be the result of keeping these vows. This should be familiar, right? Remember that one of the causes for becoming an animal was breaking all these vows to a medium degree, right? Mm-hmm. There's a connection between the relationship with these vows and then what our mind flops over into. And then the second one, don't get too lost in the weeds here. You're like, wait, I was just trying to attain enlightenment. There's 3 enlightenments. But for those of you who've heard, the listeners, the self-made Buddhas, or the Mahayana practitioners, which are just 3 different vehicles that you're traveling on to get to your freedom. It's referring to any of those enlightenments, all 3 of those.
That's for those of you doing the deeper coursework, so you're good. What, there's 3 enlightenments? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to speed through this. This is the first time I saw karmic correlations. So karma will ripen in 4 different ways. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So these are called the 4 flowers. Anyone that doing ACI know them?
Oh yeah, let's
see. I think I know Sarah over there. And who else? Just unmute yourself because I can't see all the.
Even if you only know 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
We're not changing the slide yet, David, because we want you to tell us what the 4 flowers are. Then we will.
Anyone remember the 4 ways karma ripens?
Environmental. No, not that.
No, sorry. Did you say environmental?
Yes.
Yes. Oh. Sorry. Yeah, I thought you said bloody mental. I'm like, no.
Environmental.
Environmental.
That's one of the 4.
Like habits or tendencies.
Habits or tendency. That's Kelly. 2 of the 4. Thanks, Kelly.
Come on.
Senses.
What was it? The type of life.
The type of life. Good.
Yeah.
And?
Who eats the karma?
Your type of rebirth.
No, that's the type of life.
Oh, type of life.
Personal. Okay. So you have a personal experience within a realm. You then have a habit for doing things within that realm, within your person. And then the environment around you is set up just right for you to repeat that garbage or that goodness. Yeah. So you're popped into a realm of existence, animal, human, etc. If you are born into a human realm, you will then have your personal experience of the result of this karma. So you have a realm experience, you have, like, you're forced to see yourself locked in a perspective. Then you personally have a finite view of within that perspective, your personal correlation to the karma. And you have this habit, right? I can't help but look at hot guys on the train, right? Like, I can't help it. Look at so many hot guys. Yeah. And then the environment says, go ahead. It's summer. Let's get our shirts off. Damn it. Does that make sense? Sorry, everyone's like grossed out.
I think this one is important. So now we can change the slide,
Yeah.
David, for you. So we're going to be talking about the personal results and environmental results of the top 10 non-virtues. So those karmic correlations. And if you've ever heard the pen thing, right? And you've heard Ed Three Jewel's teacher say, and this applies to absolutely everything. And you were like, wait a minute, are they true? Like, are they just saying that, or do they really mean it? Because that really had me like chewing in the beginning. I remember walking around New York and being like, these concrete skyscrapers?
Yeah, I know.
Even that's my karma? Or like feeling I love the rain. I have this beautiful association with it because I used to dance in the rain at my grandma's house over Indian summers. I was like, even the rain and the experience of rain falling from the sky is my karma. And I, like, my mind, I mean, I still do it. That's like, and this tells you yes. And in even more like magnificent ways than you could think.
Yeah. Because basically anything at all that your mind is experiencing is what your mind is experiencing. Like, it's your experience of the rain, particular to you, is you have a nice association with the rain. Yeah, I have also dancing in the patio in Argentina with no shoes on. Yeah, and mum screaming in the window, get in, right? And so that's my personal experience of rain, yours as well. And then we have the environment where, the world we're in, humans with rain, not worms with rain, not dogs with rain, but humans with rain. So the realm, the personal. And then you're like, it's raining. I can't wait to go outside. I can't wait. It's raining. It can turn into a suffering. Why won't you let me go outside? Mom, I want to go outside. Like, your habit about, I want rain to give me that fix. I want rain to give me that thing. Your habit towards the experience you have of rain, good or bad. And then the environment, like, maybe you like it so much, but your karmas aren't so good. So you live in bloody Arizona. Live in Arizona. It rains once never. And you're like, but I love rain. Or maybe you have a good karma, like a positive experience with it, and you live in the Amazon and you're like, I can't wait. I can't wait. Today at 3 o'clock, it'll rain. You know, and so the environment is supportive of.
And not just natural environments, you're going to see it here, but these are also the environments or the systems made by other humans.
Other creatures.
That even at that level, why do I find myself in a country that has certain structures or certain systems that function in this way?
Yeah.
Even that comes from something in my mind.
Because your mind is relating to it.
And I definitely didn't choose it to be that way. Otherwise, I wouldn't have designed a country like this. I'm in New York. Right?
The country of New York.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand that there's these 4 flowers, right? The karma isn't so simplistic like we've been saying. You know, life produces life. It's more. It's very finite. It's how all the detail in which your mental experience and physical and real experience is experienced. Yeah. So we're going to go through the top 10.
Get ready
Someone's
to
making
screenshot.
fun.
No, Zach is just laughing.
Zach, stop
He's
laughing
really
at me.
enjoying
What's
it.
going on?
You're
It's
not
not
supposed to have
raining.
this much fun.
It's not raining. Okay, here we go. So what would be the personal consequence, personal result of killing? It would be to have a shortened lifespan. You personally would have an experience that your life isn't long. It gets cut short. Or you get sick easily, or you have very little energy, less life force. That makes sense for your personal experience, right? Your environmental experience is the food, the medicine, the things that gives you sustenance don't quite work. And I mean, I've seen this firsthand within this world. Crops don't work over here and they work over there. Sometimes
antibiotic resistant
yeah.
medicine. Where do those come from?
Yeah. So then it's not that those things aren't there. It's not that we're trying to make genetically superior food, but if your karma is not to experience it, you will get sick. It's so personal, and the environment will sustain that personal karma. It's a very different way to investigate what's happening to us and why. And when investigating it this way, you all of a sudden have agency that you didn't have before. Like, can I do something about it? And the answer is keep those commitments, see what it would take if in 3 and 6 months you were meticulous about taking care of life. See if your karma for getting sick or not getting food to have sustenance changes at all. When I first saw this list, I was obsessed because emptiness. Okay, we can understand things don't have a nature because dogs see chew toy. Got it, duh. After a while, it's like, duh. But the harder thing to understand is why me in this particular way? Why did I project this and not that? What causes that? And that's very difficult. And this was the first hint when I read these, is the first hint. For those of you who are doing all the courses, there's course 14, Lojong, right? That has this stunning correlation with a kind of fierceness to go, right, I'm sick and tired of all the things that don't work. This happened to me because of this happened to me because of this, I'm stopping it for good. It's sort of a fierce version of these. Anyone going there? No, everyone's good. Okay, so stealing, right, which in essence is, it can be stealing time or taking other people's stuff. It's not hard once you see the correlations, right? You personally begin to not have means. You don't have enough. If you've got a lifetime of stealing, taking other people's stuff for granted, right? You are forced to see your own possessions be common possessions, or you're forced to not have enough for yourself. That makes sense. That's why we experience life that way. If you look at it this way, all of a sudden it's a perfect correlation, a stable correlation. If it's coming from my seeds, then let me change the seeds and see if I actually have abundance. Now, the delivery vehicle for abundance in this world might be work, might be money, might be all sorts of things. It's not about the delivery vehicle. That's just how this karma gets delivered to you. There's plenty of people that work really hard and don't have money. There's plenty of people who don't work at all and have a ton of money. It's hard. We don't like thinking that because we were taught the opposite, right? There's also a ton of people who work really hard and have a ton of money. And there's also a ton of people who don't work at all and don't have any money. There's 4 types of people to 2 types of money or no money. It's not coming from the things we're doing. It's coming from the minds experiencing that reality. Yeah. So does anyone remember Peter in the meditation teacher training, his title for his med talk? Does anyone remember? What was it? Unmute yourself if you.
Woo woo boy.
Woo woo boy. Yeah,
No.
woo woo boy.
Yes.
No, that wasn't it. It was something like it's your responsibility, but it's not your fault, or something like that.
Oh, it's like something about blaming you.
You're to blame, but it's not your
It's-
fault.
yeah,
something
something
like
like
that.
Blameless responsibility.
Yeah, cool.
Ooh, I
Thank
love
you.
That. Yeah.
That was Rachel with something in her mouth.
Sorry.
She's eating.
Good. Yeah, it's sort
I
of
love
blameless responsibility. We would not have planted the seeds that created all the things we don't like in today, in our world and in ourselves. We wouldn't have done it. I know. That's where compassion comes in. You're like, oh my God, we're blind to creating suffering for ourselves. And then our fellow humans are doing the same. I'll cheat you. Oh, I won. Poor bastard just created lack. You should have compassion, help them not do it. But not get angry at them when you're planting bad things. So that's for stealing, other people's property, not respecting other people's property. Your property won't be respected. What you thought was yours will be taken away. Like, it makes sense. Yeah. And the environment would be things don't work, crops don't grow, and scarcity of food. Things get easily spoiled and so on. If you've traveled at all, you've seen whole groups of people living those karmas out. It's just a different way of looking at exactly the same thing. Everyone's good?
You can click next. I think we can just keep speaking to it. You touched on it, but someone's asking difference between personal and environmental. And it's exactly that, what you're personally experiencing versus what you see in your world. And I feel like you hinted at this, but it's so exhilarating when you get to see the connection between when things happen in the world, you no longer believe that they're happening because lawmakers put them into motion, right? Or because the forces that we think are in power in the world, they made it that way. Finally, things are changing. And actually, let's take these examples. You start to see more food security in your community. That came from your practice of protecting life and respecting others' property. You actually get this confidence of, oh, that's where things come from. And I might be seeing it that way and someone else might not, and that's okay. It's completely valid.
Yeah.
And you get this confidence in your own practice of these ethics.
And as a human world, as a collection of human beings, when big shifts happen, like the internet, we used to have to pay a ton of money to communicate with each other, or broadcast TV or TikTok even. When the large majority of the world experiences a shift, 9/11, the rest, and all our minds together are experiencing a shift. That's environment. And then you have your own particular version of that. Like I remember where I was in 9/11 and all the things that happened in my mind, but I shared that in the environment that would allow such a thing to happen. Yeah, that would experience a thing like that happening. And then awesome things too, right? So it's not just the bad things. It's like,
yeah, like think about the environment if you were to protect life. Sorry.
Yeah.
But it would be, it works that way too. How do you create your paradise? Here's the instruction manual. And Zach, to your point, I think that a lot of these correlations, like we see them as these complex things, they actually come from children's books.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and I just think that's so interesting. Yeah, that like just the propensity of our minds to be like, oh yeah, this makes sense, versus like having to wrestle into like, oh, does this make sense? You know, just I think about that.
A way that I engage with these once I began to, because initially I can't say I enjoyed these correlations, and I was interested in them, but I disagreed with them, right? Because what I was taught was right. Forget what Buddhists were practicing for 2,500 years. And so I had a tension around them, because some of them don't make sense. Like, let's look at number 3, sexual misconduct, right? Or honoring other people's. Remember I told you I had issues here? People around you are unreliable and there's competition for your partner. I understand the competition for my partner because I'm competing for other people's partners. But what do you mean unreliable? You know, oh, I guess because I'm not reliable to my partner. It took me a while to actually understand that. And then the environmental results. Why does the world around me have to be filthy, stinky, New York in the summer, you know, where the puddles of garbage water and pee rise up to your nostrils, and that's a direct result of environmental sexual misconduct result. Yeah. But I didn't understand that. You know, why is it that my environment feels that kind of filth? So there'll be a bunch of things that are worth questioning. What's Zoe saying?
Summer juices.
Summer juices.
Yeah, if you live in New York.
You know what that is. Okay, so I'm going to just go through them quick because I want to give us some time to finish the class. And then, so if you're taking the course and doing the quizzes, take a snapshot of this. We're going to quickly go through the correlations, but once you begin to see the personal experience and then the environmental thing that would support that habit or experience, it becomes easy to work with. Let's go to, did I just do the wrong thing?
I'm editing the wrong thing. Here we go. Cool. Yeah. So these are the 10 non-virtues. It should start to feel familiar, this list of 10.
But really, it's actions of body, speech, and mind. Yeah. So
here's the speech.
Divisive talk, unreliable character, can't keep friends, people don't believe you, basically, you know. Idle talk, harsh talk, and coveting, rejoicing in others. Versus rejoicing in others' success. So take a snapshot of that because you'll have the correlations. They're also in the readings. Yeah. Can I move on? Thanks. 3, 2, 1. You put him 12? Oh, it will. Just let me take the glass. Oh, now I can see it. Okay. And ill will and wrong views. Yeah. perpetuating wrong views, meaning perpetuating the thinking that things out there are the source of the way things are, will just create more stupidity. Yeah. And your incapacity to discover and uncover the real thing behind it. That's the personal thing.
Yeah, it's like this tragic irony. The more you think things have power outside of you, the more your reality will show up in a way that you are powerless.
Yeah.
There's the cycle.
Yeah.
And there's like the churning.
And that's why we keep harping on emptiness, karma. Everything we think, we place inside our minds, as tiny, subtle as you can be aware of, because the more you meditate, the more aware you are, right? The finer you can work and weave these mental conditions to tame that mind, to avoid planting afflictions, yeah, or harms. This is a summary. But the more we're aware of that, the less likely we are to create these experiences around us that we don't really know where they come from. Why did the stock market fall today? Why did there's a different answer. And it's not like woo-woo Buddhists in India, It really is. Why is my consciousness forced to experience this reality this way? It's very empowering. I think we can move on.
Yeah, do you think we should take a little break? We have
can we take a little break?
4 or 5 minute break?
Back at
8:50.
8:52 Eastern Standard, 52 past the hour. Good. And I'm going to take a little break too.
See you refreshed. It's a really sweet end of class. So excited to see you soon.
See you soon.
Here.
We can answer some.
Oh, also, can you,
Did I say 52 or 50?
you said 52.
We're back at 52. Welcome back, everyone. Hi. Well, let's answer some of the questions while others are popping in.
Yeah, well, I just want to make sure is Maya yeah, she's here. Great. Loved your question based on Rachel's Instagram post. She said, okay, great question. How does our karma explain 1.6 million and rising deaths from COVID, and at the same time, billionaires adding $931 billion to their net worth?
Yeah, good. What would you say, Maya?
Well, I would say that I've certainly been greedy, and I've certainly not protected life. And
Question, did you make millions of dollars?
no.
Okay. You sure?
I don't wish, but a little part of it.
So your personal result is not the greed. And this is where we have to get really clear, right? So your karma is to experience a group of people seemingly to get wealthy off of suffering. Yeah. That is the karma you have. Now, what karma would make someone's abundance be connected to other people's suffering? That's a very pointed, real, samsaric view. Like that's what we do. Right? So we perpetuate that world and we experience the results of that world. But you personally, you enjoy some freedom from everyone else's suffering. That must be a result of taking care of other beings in a time of suffering. The result of you not being harmed deeply is your personal experience of that. You could even say that of the owner of Amazon. But I don't know, right? It would appear to you that it's not. So for them, what's their karma? To experience suffering, creating net worth, abundance.
I guess I'm curious too about the relationship of our karmas. Like, it's my mind that's experiencing my reality. But what does that say about collective experience? Is that?
No, that's perfect. It's, of course, we are currently having collective human experience, albeit with a few variants. Those of us that are colorblind are not seeing what everyone else is seeing. Those of us that are a little bit deaf, a little bit, those, et cetera, but generally speaking, our forced experience of this is human. Bring your kitties here. They're not having ethical dilemma about COVID. They're like, meow. So that's a different karma of this same reality. And shared karma, broadly speaking, is realms, right? The realms we're stuck in. And then within realms, it's subgroups. And then within subgroups, there's subgroups until you individualize one person. Yeah. So
this also makes me think, they say that the study of karma is deeply hidden, Shintukakir, deeply hidden, versus emptiness, which is just hidden.
Yeah.
Right. So think about that. This thing that's so hard to wrap our minds around, of the things being empty of a nature and the thing we deny, all these beautiful emptiness teachings, actually even more deeply hidden than that are the workings of karma. And I feel like this conversation is revealing that, right? So I think there's some line where it's like, keep your view of emptiness as vast as the sky, and keep your attention to karma and your own karma, because I can't do anything about anyone else's, as fine as grains of sand.
Yeah. I like that, Manusha. Yeah. Also, I would say that this duwa practice, this taming of the mind, is akin to getting in a car, having it turbocharged, right? And imagine driving a car without a dashboard, without any gauges on the dashboard. And you're just driving. You don't know if you're speeding. You don't know if you're going slow. You don't know if things overheating. You don't know. all of a sudden these practices and the understanding of how karma arises as a study, as a looking at the gauge, right, will let our minds understand how far we yet to go, how fast we're going, how slow, etc. Yeah, and our choices is the steering wheel. You know, sometimes we're like this, and now we're getting much finer and much more stable. I don't know if that helps.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It does help. It makes me really, I feel like I'm driving a car with no information.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or the wrong information. The wires were crossed. We're born in samsara. If you're looking at it from a Buddhist point of view, we're born in samsara. The heat indicator is actually showing you the fuel tank, but you don't know that the wires are crossed because we're getting the illusion that doing this makes that gauge work. We don't understand. Yeah. Or what is that movie, Spotless Mind?
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
That one.
And
it's the sun rising because the guy hits the coin. Is that the movie? Or am I thinking a different movie?
No, Eternal Sunshine wipes your memory.
That's a different movie. The Eternal Sunshine one is the one where they wipe each other's memory and then they meet anyway.
Yeah.
But then that's not what I'm
You're
thinking
thinking
about.
of the Truman Show.
No, it's not the Truman Show. This kid thinks that a certain thing he does makes the sun come up, and it's tapping the bus stop sign with a coin, and then the sun comes up. What's that movie? Anyway, you get the metaphor. Someone thinks that doing this.
Monkey King?
No, it's not Monkey King. Okay, stop.
It reminds me a bit of chocolat too.
Yeah, okay. We get the idea, right? Doing this makes this result. It's wrong. It's not. And getting gauges is actually getting them to work. And this is it. Now I know my personal, you can at least test it. Put your foot on the accelerator, see if that gauge moves over time. Yeah, pull your foot off the accelerator, see what happens to the gauges. These are the gauges.
Yeah, sorry, you can keep talking.
The essence of what really I want us to take away is there is a whole technology taught by the Buddha, practiced by through millennia by millions of people to try and get those gauges to work and get a different result to the normal result we're all thinking we're getting. Good. Go. So we did the correlations. Yeah. And now you want to link it?
Yeah. Okay. So we're moving into this thing called the Lam Rim. The Lam Rim. Okay. So I don't remember if you said this or not. The Vinaya is. Remember when we talked about the Abhidharma Kosha? Sorry, I'm just like
Lam Rim, Abhidharma Kosha, Vinaya, karma and emptiness.
I'm gonna connect it all.
Buddhist.
Remember when we talked about the Abhidharma Kosha, the source text for our last course, right? It's connected, I promise. That was one of the 5 great books. Another one of those 5 is Vinaya, right? So first of all, even that's cool, right? This book on the cosmology of the entire universe is one of the 5. Yeah. And then this practice on how to keep an ethical life is another one, like the importance of the 2. But so these are like the 5 standard texts or bodies of texts that you study in a traditional Tibetan Buddhist monastic degree. And we get sort of the cherry on top. They say that you only get Lam Rim teachings when like the Dalai Lama is in town and you're getting some sort of special teaching. But it's actually the thing that puts it all together. So Lam Rim means steps on the path to enlightenment. And that's what we're going into now. Is that anything? Yeah.
So it's the road that this vehicle with gauges is.
Yeah.
It's the part. It's that. Oh, okay. I'm heading to enlightenment. That's why the hell I'm on the road. Now I've got these gauges that are giving me kind of direct feedback, and the fuel tank is really your virtue. Yeah, the petrol or the gas is really your wisdom, understanding, and your kindness. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can have a confidence that you're not the first one who's gone down this road, right? Like these are wisdoms or advices that have come from people in their own vehicles moving down their own paths. Yeah. So we're talking about now are the qualities of what makes something a Lam Rim, as in what makes something a path that if you followed those steps, you would get to enlightenment.
And a classic path that you've all studied, a Lam Rim, is the Lamson Namsum, the very first class we took, the 3 steps, which is renunciation, bodhicitta. These are the essence of all paths. And so that's a Lam Rim. A lamrim is do these things. Yeah, begin with a teacher, get renunciation, think that you're not the only bastard, so love everyone, and do it with wisdom and keep doing it. Yeah. So lamrim will, if you follow the lamrim, it grabs all of the Buddhist teachings and not just philosophical and all the practices and just puts them in an order that is a graduated path to waking up.
I've always had this question, and Kelly has it too. So there are multiple lamrims.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yeah. But they have the same format, really, you know? So lamrims are, let's grab all of the Buddhist teachings and put them in order. So if you practice them sequentially, you'll wake up. And, you know, there's 100,000 page lamrim, 10,000 page lamrim.
14 verse lamrim, that's the source of all my good. You've heard that.
Yeah.
So the entire Buddhist graduated path can be put into 14 poetic verses. That's a lamrim. So here's how you can check whether something is a lamrim. It should have these 4 qualities. The first one is that it's free of any inconsistency. Caveat here, it might seem to contradict itself, right? Like classical example is that you might have heard the Buddha say, never kill your mother and father, right?
No killing.
No killing, but also in particular, right?
Oh,
Don't kill your mother and fathers.
Yeah, because it's an immediate
They're
misdeed,
immediate misdeeds. They're high holy objects. But in another part of the Buddha's teaching, he says, kill your mother and father, right? So free of any inconsistency.
Michelle's like, what the hell?
There might seem to be some contradiction there, right? But as you unravel more, you realize, okay, if it's true that it's a lamrim, if it's true that this is something that's going to get me to the ultimate truth, I need to be able to reconcile those two. And you can't. The idea there that when he said kill your mother and father, it means let go of your attachment to external validation from your family, the home life. Mentally kill your mother and father. Don't literally do it. That's one of the 5 immediate misdeeds.
So there's figurative teachings from the Buddha and there's literal teachings and there's also a whole course on figuring out how you differentiate.
Best course ever, ACI17.
Yeah.
So that's the first one, free of any inconsistency. You realize at a certain point, wow, all of these pieces, even if they seem to be in the wrong order, even if they seem to keep repeating themselves or contradicting themselves, they are perfectly designed to move my particular mind, because of the way I'm relating to it, to enlightenment. So that's the first one. This second one I love, we touched on it. It's that feeling of every teaching, and here I think every song lyric, every random line from a podcast episode, everything your boss says offhand strikes you as, wow, they are speaking directly to me. And this blew my mind when I first came to Dharma classes, because I was like, how are they reading my mind? How is everything they're saying? Like the idea being you can put it into practice right away. Yeah. Right? It's not this theoretical thing that doesn't apply to you. So it's like love letters specific for your ears. That it can have that quality, a lamrim. Then the third one is that you easily grasp the Buddha, or here an enlightened mind's intent. Right? If it's true that an enlightened mind is perfect compassion and complete all-knowing omniscience, you can actually grasp that intent in the way the steps are presented and why things are taught. You realize why it's necessary. Nothing seems like, oh no, that wouldn't increase my compassion, or that wouldn't increase my capacity for wisdom. And then because of that, right, because you see the perfection of every component, you are saved from the great abyss. Meaning the great abyss here is blocking yourself from wisdom. Like it's, okay, you know that experience of like you thought something was the coolest thing ever, and then something flipped in your mind and that very thing you couldn't stand it, right? Like we've all had that experience of something just flipping entirely. Imagine the tragedy of that happening to your path for awakening. Right? And they say the way it happens is that you reject things rather than shelving them. Like, remember when we talked about if something doesn't sit with you, if you're like, oh, I can't get behind the not killing fetuses thing, fine. Don't reject it. Just put it on a spiritual shelf in your mind.
And keep questioning, because you'll wake something up.
Exactly. As long as you do that, you're fine. You're saved from the great abyss. But as soon as you put a blockade up in your mind of like, no, that doesn't apply. That couldn't get me free. There's no reason an all compassionate being would say that. That very thing is cutting. It's like cutting your root of virtue. It's blocking you. It's great abyss. So
It's
those are
like
the-
ignoring one of the gauges. It's like,
Yeah.
the heating thing, it's all right.
Yeah, they really talk about it that way. It's like this machine, which at first you're like, I don't understand how this works. And then when you get the aha, you realize every nut and bolt and placement is there for a reason. And it's completely precise. Okay.
How do you get Lamrim?
How do you get anything? Okay, so I know that every single class we say, this is the class. This is the list of all things to pay attention to, of all things to remember. It's this. But it's actually true for this one. This list, the qualities of a teacher, and which is basically an instruction manual for how you can create your personal teacher. This list is the list that unlocks the meaning of every other list. It's the thing, like there's nothing else. So even if you've heard this before, I've heard this, I mean, I haven't heard it as much, like we were talking, you're like, I've taught this already a few times this year. I've heard this so many times, and every time it like, I was just crying last night, happy tears. I didn't know the happy tear phenomenon until Dharma, but now I do. It's rare for me, but still it's that, it brings me to it. It's amazing that this list exists, because the fact that it exists means someone experienced all of them in this one being at one time, and they realized it wasn't emanating from that being. That's the thing with the teacher. So please try to keep this in your mind as we go through this, because it's so easy with teachers. They're like these, I feel it right now. I feel like I'm sitting next to the sun, and it's like, talk about the sun while sitting next to the sun is what it feels like. They shine so bright. They beam into you, and it's so easy to feel like, oh, they're coming this way. They're coming at me.
I'm not the Son, I'm the Father and the Holy Spirit.
But the only thing they ever tell you is that, no, I'm not beaming into you. You're creating me. That's all they keep saying to you. You're creating every single thing you see in me. And then they keep showing up as the sun. It's incredible. So please think about that when you go through this list. Connect with what parts of these you connect to, because you are that teacher. And here we go. Okay.
Do you want me to click?
Yes. Yeah. So there's 10 in total. I'm not complimenting myself, I'm complimenting the sun. Oh my gosh. Okay. So first three qualities, and just please jump in anytime. First three qualities should feel familiar. They're the Tripitaka, right? Is tamed, is at peace, and has high peace, is code for they're masters in the training of ethics, training of concentration, and the training of wisdom and the way they relate to each other. So think about it. You should try to seek out a teacher who's tamed themselves and actually seems to enjoy having an ethical practice, right? You should seek out a teacher who's at peace. That means they can bring their mind into meditation. They can decide what they want to hold their attention on, and they can hold it there joyfully for a period of time. Eyes closed and eyes open.
Good.
So that's at peace. And then at high peace, they don't just meditate on anything. They understand that the only thing worth meditating on is wisdom, is emptiness. And they have that's the academic understanding, right? The intellectual.
A deep understanding, intellectual
understanding of wisdom.
And they call the three extraordinary trainings because the result of training your mind in this way or training yourself in this way, the results are extraordinary. So the result of an ultimate virtuous life, because you understand its wisdom and you can concentrate, right, will be extraordinary things to experience in that same mind. So you want to seek out someone who's the closest to that you've met. And, I'll jump in. Early stages of developing a relationship to a teacher is manifold, but they are the door that unlocks all of the practices that you'll take up, which means they are the concentrated echo of your highest virtue. So it doesn't mean that you're thinking that way about them, that it means you're experiencing them that way. And it's okay, you're still in samsara, you're gonna be angry at them and have shitty thoughts, and that's okay. But out of all the things, which creature has appeared that way to you, and latch onto them and keep planting that karma? It's a practice, yeah. And in meditation, you can have that as real or imagined. So if you find it hard to meet someone that looks like they've tamed their mind, and developed concentration and understands really and live by that understanding of how things actually work. If you're having a hard time relating to someone like that in your life because you see too many flaws or whatever, and you forgot that the world is coming from you, it's a good practice to just imagine what an imaginary being like that would look like. And that begins the seeding of that creature to appear in your world for real. Yeah. So I think that's
this should, like anyone who's done the inner guide meditation at 3 Jewels or the preliminaries, this should start to make sense. Why does the Dalai Lama do that practice every single morning? Why does that exist as a meditation? Why would you think to conjure up your perfect teacher and then on the canvas of your mind just code it over and over? I'm mixing metaphors, but whatever. On the switchboard of your mind, code it over and over again. These qualities. It doesn't matter whether your eyes are closed or open. That's going to have a result. And it'll start to appear. What it just appears like a normal person or a name on a flyer. You go into the class and you're like, how is this happening? How are they saying these things I've been longing to hear and I didn't even know it? So that's how it happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4, this is sort of obvious. Your teacher should know more than you. They should have qualities that exceed you, specifically spiritual qualities, but whatever it is you're trying to learn or be able to do, they should be able to do it better than you. Always. That's what that is. This is the best. I mean, this is, okay, this list is so easy for me to do because I have literally a perfect example of all of them. So I'm just like, here, joyful effort. You want to know an example of it? It's him. I don't, if you all didn't know this, as he's preparing and doing this class, he's already thinking about the next class he's going to do, the next 10 classes he's going to do and record. And there's a joy there. It's like, you know how you hear people, you know, the like thing in college where you brag about the all-nighters you pull, like it's like the productivity Olympics, the suffering Olympics though, is really what it is. It's the opposite of that. It's like, I've never seen someone put in more effort or work harder and then with joy, which you're just like almost annoyed at times. You're like, how is it possible that you could have this much happiness at serving other people? So it's that type of effort, joyful effort. You actually get happy dedicating your life to others. You see that in your teacher. Then this one's beautiful. I'm so bad at this. Rich in scripture. So this is like why I'll say things and he'll be like, no, that's not true. And you'll know the exact reference, right? So of where these things that we're saying come from. So that's the idea in a Buddhist teacher, in your Lama, this should be someone who's rich in scripture. They've studied, here they're saying the 3 collections, the Tripitaka, so anything the Buddha said or spoke. Oh, sorry, that's the same thing. Spoke or wrote. So rich in scriptural knowledge. You want to say something? Yeah,
you should just be able to call to mind because you've studied it and practiced it, like you did. Like, oh, Abhidhamma Kosha, 350 AD, Bodhisattva Charavatara, Lamrim. You know, you should be able to say, oh, that's right, that sits here, that sits there. I'm not just making stuff up. I'm connecting wisdom that's been tried and tested. So this student or this person that needs it to move on beyond their current suffering, they can actually be helped and have this confidence to say, oh, so that's why study is such an important thing. And all those of you who are doing these courses in depth is amazing because you won't know how much you've developed until someone needs you and you'll be able to sit there and you'll see it clearly. And then you'll have to develop the other one, which is master of instruction, because you can't say the same thing to everyone.
Actually, you just made me think of something in Rich in Scripture. This is something that I heard Geshe-la say, which, by the way, it's his birthday today. So it feels really special to be talking about this. But he said something once that stuck with me. He's like, oh, you're sick of all the lists? Do something with them. Every time you're waiting for your coffee in line or every time you're waiting for the subway, move your mind backwards and forwards through the list and then skip them. Do even numbers and then odd numbers. And it's not just to memorize it for memorization's sake. It's so that when that person comes up to you in pain and they're asking for your help, they're begging you, you know exactly what teaching to give them. It just pops into your mind. You've coded it there. So that's what I think of also for Rich in Scripture. Then number 7, deep realization of suchness. This is actual realization of emptiness. So all of us have had a experience of emptiness, right? If you've heard the pen thing, if you've tried to put it into words, if you've taught it in meditation, you've had an experience of emptiness that's different from having a direct experience or anything to do with emptiness, direct experience of dependent origination. At some realization where this is not just, oh, I'm going to say these things because my teacher told me so, but rather I've experienced this as a truth and it can't be unknown from my mind. I have no doubt around it anymore. Imagine if you had a teacher like that who could then, they're teaching you emptiness. And then number 8, which we hinted at, master at instruction. They can do a corporate gig for 3 joules at 11 a.m. this morning, and then do this class, and then spend 2 hours recording little nuggets for something completely different, but there's just wisdom pouring out of them. The truth is always the truth. They're just changing the packaging out of compassion so that it lands for that particular mind perfectly. So they're a master at instruction. And then image of love. I love this one. Yeah, teaching out of, oh yeah, so they're not doing this to get rich or to get a lot of followers.
Karuna's like, I want to get rich.
The only reason, it's actually the reason they can have all those other qualities, right? Like that thing that would keep you up all night studying scripture, or that thing that would keep you showing up. It's because you love it. You're doing it out of love. This one also makes me think that the teacher who shows up for you will probably have the qualities that at first will annoy you the most, because they're the things in you which you've tried to reject for so long. Like that's how I've heard you speak of this, and that's how it showed up for me. Like, I don't know if anyone knows this, but my whole thing in high school was that I don't believe in love. It was like this thing I wore as a badge. I was like Stoner Soups who wasn't into love. That was my whole persona. And so it baffled me. And I was a huge super nerd. I was like, my brain is my most prized real estate. That's why I never indulged in meditation, because I was like, I'm not going to shut off my brain. That stuff is special. That's important. And I had this whole thing around my intelligence. That was the key to everything. And until the key stopped working, until nothing was igniting anymore, I found myself in a Dharma class. And I was like, wait, what is happening in this heart area? What is going on? Why are there tears flowing out of my eyes? Why is someone teaching me that love is the way to know absolutely everything? And it has nothing to do with my brain or my intellect or these shields I put up against loving. Like, I just share that to be like, generally it appears that way. I found that those qualities at first are like, wait, what's happening? I've tried for so long to reject that. They show up in the most beautiful, exalted form to be like, nope, that was in you the whole time. Here it is. Here's how you can express it. And then number 10, they've overcome all distaste for their students. That's actually what that is. Like, that's the parenthetical, meaning you can ask them the same question over and over again. And
no, you can. Yeah, you can. I know you can. I've witnessed it. You can.
Yeah, like anytime anyone's ever, maybe you've asked a question being like, oh, this is going to be a really good one. Like, chances are he's heard it before. And he might indulge you. That's a really good question. That's a good point. But it's not the first time. They will take your questions over and over again, and they will patiently respond to you exactly in the way you need.
Now you know what happened in teacher training, Anna Mac. Yeah. She's like, wait a minute.
It's really beautiful. It's like, I wish this was a BuzzFeed list, 10 ways to get everything you want in life and more. Like, it would be this. It would be connect with the seeds of these qualities in your own mind, amp them up, and then go looking in your world, because someone will show up who actually has these, who actually allows you to have a relationship with them. Like, who lets you into their house, lets you into their life to see how they live. And then you get to work with them. And there's nothing, I don't know of anything more worth doing with your life. But that's how it starts. You have to see them in you, because they're coming from you. all of this is coming from you. And they, if they're really your Lama, will keep telling you that even when you don't want to hear it.
This is weird.
It's really
Okay.
weird. I'm like, sunshine.
This feels weird. Okay. It was much nicer when she was in another little box. I think the thing I've got to say about this is, I think Rachel said it stunningly at a meeting we had today. There's two realities, right? The nominal reality, the thing we call samsara. And then there's the diamond reality, the emptiness reality, the ultimate reality, the way things actually function. And they coexist. Where is your mind sitting? Yeah, and this practice is to bring your mind to the one of infinite possibilities and plant the seeds for that relative reality, the one that's currently called samsara, that's forever, what is it, Sam? A dumpster fire, right? A dumpster fire. And doesn't matter how many times you're going to put out whatever qualities of flames is coming out of that dumpster fire, the dumpster fire will continue. Sorry to say so, but sadly it's true that hang-ups and bang-ups will happen to you. Yeah, there's no stopping it in the old way. That's what we have renunciation from. Thinking that pouring water in the dumpster fire is going to stop it. There is no end to the dumpster fire. Reacting it through the illusion. Doesn't matter how much you tweak it. Someone will be pissed off. You'll see them as pissed off. Someone will take advantage of you. That way of relating, the relative way of experiencing life. If you're stuck there thinking things are coming that way, no end to dumpster. Even if you get internet, it will eventually turn into TikTok. Even if you get like opportunity to communicate for free with the whole world, what do? Porn, right? Like it's just forever dumpster fire upon dumpster fire. You think it's water, it's fuel. You think doing something out there towards it, it's fuel. And at the same time exists the diamond world, the ultimate reality world, the world where, because of emptiness, that dumpster fire is possible, but so is every gradient towards freedom. And there are beings who can experience that same reality as nothing but bliss. It's not coming from it, it's coming to it. That's why the pen thing is the biggest blessing you're ever going to get. Yeah. If you get that example and then apply that to everything within and without, and how do you get there? Someone opened that door, and it's a teacher. And that teacher, doesn't matter whether they got warts or hair or no hair, and they look weird and they say funny things or terrible things. If for you, that fire got extinguished for a second and you saw the diamond world, the emptiness of the world, the possibility, you actually understood it. That's it. It's them. It's them, including the wart, including the thing you don't like. It comes together for you. But because that's the echo mirror of your karma, the one that's got most wisdom, the one that shows you the possibility of two worlds that are going on at the same time and dumping the dumpster fire through these practices. That's your teacher, as close as you can get to it. When you work through the distaste and you work through the wisdom. But if you got it, it's not them. It's the best part of you. Don't throw them in the dumpster fire. Right? So look for these 10 qualities and keep developing it. For me, when I got this list, a couple of strategies. I'll take it as if it's real. I wasn't sure that it was. So how am I going to develop these 10 qualities? Because I want them to show up. So how am I going to not get tired or annoyed when people ask me the same thing? I'm annoyed when people ask me the same things. If I rewind a couple of decades, you know, I still get like, God, didn't you listen? You know, but it's an echo of what it used to be. It's not reactionary anymore. And this list comes to mind. Yeah, when I get tired, I think, what's this experience? Tired. Image of love. You should do it for love. Yeah. When I get the really cool gigs with all the teachers, all the corporate gig today, they were all like loving on Hector. They're like, this was the most amazing. And you could still hear the echo of, I'm so special. Dumb. Like, I don't want that seed. So I had to look at their faces with attention and go, love them, because they can use this to free themselves from a bad relationship, from bad money issues, with concerns about their work, with whatever the issues are for them in their dumpster fire. So it became a list of an invitation for me to keep my teacher. And then my teacher grew and my conception of them grew. Yeah. And other people can see them as a dumpster fire. It doesn't mean it's mine.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful thing about this. Like I used to think this like, oh, okay, I need to go find the most famous teacher, right? I need to go find the teacher who has the most students. Yeah. That would be a good way to find a student. I need to find the tenured Lama. Like, that's not how this system is. Like, I love when people, when they come for a preliminaries meditation, they'll be like, oh, can I meditate on my dog? I think of my dog as having these qualities. It's like, yeah, if you're connected to that being, if you really, for real, see that being that way, then yes, totally amp that up. It's just the way you see your Lama, no one else is going to see them that way. It's personal. There's karma for you. That's the personal responsibility. Yeah, you said it, but that's important.
Yeah. It's good. We have 3 minutes.
That's all we have. That's it.
Wow.
We did it.
We did it. Okay.
So we could dedicate
2 minutes of questions. 2 minutes of questions. Anyone got a comment? Well, actually, I have a request. Since it is Geshe Michael's birthday and Dr. Wu's, who's actually was the main sponsor, they're both Songkapians and they're both birthdays are today and they're both extraordinary beings. Can I ask you to unmute yourselves and say happy birthday, Geshe Michael, and then we pause and say happy birthday, Dr. Wu? And I'd love to send them that. Could we do that? Can I get, if you don't want to do that, then do whatever you want. And then we'll come back to this. That would be like the sweetest offering we can give. Yeah. Thank you. And then I'm going to video. My new iPhone. This looks
turn
good.
your videos on.
Yeah, take your audios on and then check me out, Good. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and you say, happy birthday, Geshe Michael. That's all. And then just do hand postures or something. Can we do that? Yeah. I'll go to 3. 1, 2.
Happy
birthday, Michael. Thank you. Can we do it again? And Dr. Wu. Happy birthday, Dr. Wu.
What about in Chinese?
We should say it in Chinese.
Yeah, in Chinese.
Chinese.
Teach us, Chloe. Teach us. Or JJ?
生日快乐.
Say it again.
生日快乐.
You're
Yeah.
吴老师。
老师.
吴老师。
Oh, Wu La Shi.
Yeah, 吴老师。
生日快乐.
Can someone write it? Yeah.
Yeah, which is basically just good teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, so say it again, all together.
生日快乐.
Wu La Shi.
That's so long.
You can laugh. He'll appreciate it. He's funny. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
生日快乐.
I think we should have Chloe say it very clear.
Chloe or Yuki?
Yuki. Yeah. We say together, Chloe, or
Do it.
that's 3, 2, 1. 生日快乐，吴老师。
That's so awesome.
Okay, you turn, Mackenzie. Say it.
This is a nice thing.
I can do Wu Lao Shi.
Oh, perfect.
Chinese. Yeah.
Thank
Happy
you so much.
birthday, Dr. Wu.
Yes, we're going to do the prayer and then we'll say goodbye. Yeah, thanks so much. Sorry we didn't have more Q&A. That was really sweet. We would not have any of these teachings. We would not have 3 jewels were it not for those 2 preachers. Yeah, Geshe Michael first and Ken Rinpoche, the teacher. And then Dr. Wu, who just helped us stay open when we nearly couldn't. Yeah. So here we go. Sashi Pugi Meto Rirabling Shi Inde Gimpati Sange Ashindu Mite Vivargi Droku Namda Shinla Chipa Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kamiriatayami Gawadi Roku Sunam Yeshe Zogzog Shin Sunam Yeshe Legend Hui Dampa Kuni Topar Show. We've done an incredible thing to sit together and consider these things at all. So thank you everyone for doing that. I'm going to ask a couple of announcements, may I? Yeah. Couple of announcements. I think this is my last Dharma class. I'm heading off to retreat with Stephen, much needed to go deeper into my personal practice. And thank you to everyone who sent a birthday gift that made that happen. I've never really said thank you to that, and I feel bad about it, but I'm so grateful. I promise I will place my mind on the highest thing possible for as long as I can. In my absence, Supriya will finish up the class next week. I'm just not sure how much internet I'll have in the coming weeks in Costa Rica, where there's no snow or garbage smell. And then after that, Rachel will be teaching the last of the three, and she might invite other teachers to connect and help, and she'll lead the final in the 3-part series. If I can get good internet, I'll pop in. If I'm not, you're left with 2 brilliant teachers that understand this and understand this content in applying it to a modern life, yeah, with all the nuances that is needed to make this wisdom applicable to today. You also have the support of all the 3 Jewels volunteers and teachers who are here studying and going deeper to help answer questions. So from my part, I want to say thank you for placing your minds on this, all of you. So many of you are placing your minds on what I think is the ultimate thing. There's nothing else to do in this life. Honestly, everything else will disappear as we disappear. The things that will remain is the stunning beauty that can come from intentionally understanding where is this world coming from and can I make it better for everyone by loving them, taking care of them, helping them. Yeah. And that's what I'm in love with 3 Jewels, everyone's capacity to do that. The last thing, you want to make a couple of announcements about the fundraiser?
Yeah, just ways to stay connected and to stay connected with you, right? Like all the things we're talking about in these classes is how do I put the seemingly normal stuff, how do I make it activity of my future enlightened self? So am I just clicking send on the donate button on 3 Jewels? Am I just Venmoing them because they posted it on their story?
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it that way. Let it be your practice of the 3 spheres of giving. Let it be a purification for the worst thing you've ever stolen. Do it that way, and then amp up the object to which you're doing it. Like if you're having, and you have to have some connection to 3 Jewels to be coming on Zoom for hours every Tuesday and Thursday, yet another Zoom, right? Honor that. You're coming, this is, I love the way Rachel puts it, this is your digital altar. You are coming to your altar every Tuesday and Thursday. Now, what are you going to do with that? And that's what 3 Jewels is. So whether it's, whether I was going to say donating is one way, but it's not the only way. Your time and your effort are, if not more valuable than your funds. So I just want you to know there are ways to get involved. That's how I got deeper. I remember when I think I met you putting down floors at the new place. I just showed up. It was Christmas time. I was putting down the floors and you were like, hi, who are you? I was like, hi, I've been coming to all your ACI classes. I've been doing all my homework. But you have to start doing stuff. That's karma yoga. It's getting It's waking up through doing, through action, and through relating with it, with karma and emptiness. Anything you want, you give it away. So whatever like skills you have, maybe you're amazing at social media but feel burnt out at your job. Come do it here and reignite that, right? By doing it with this attitude of service. Maybe you're an amazing fundraiser, but you're looking for that passion project to plug into. We are the socket. Come plug in.
Yeah, that's cool. 3 Joules is a nonprofit. We're run by donations. We're giving all our classes free or by donation. So it just helps other people get it. But honestly, I don't want it to be like a pressure. I have to do it. You don't have to. Whatever you do with your mind is what you have to do. If I would like you to do anything, is whatever you're doing with your mind, do it with the highest motivation for the sake of others. What 3 Joules needs to keep it going is the fundraising, is volunteering, is anything you want. But what you do in your mind, they say it is the highest offering. So I could never see you for a year and you're sitting there going, how can I dedicate this to people that are looking for wisdom? That's enough. That's enough. Really, it's enough. Yeah. So I want to say thank you. I feel a little sad that I won't be back. I'm adoring each of you. And I can't wait to come back and see you in March when I finish a very deep retreat for a long time and hopefully share more insights of this beautiful path. Keeps showing up. Yeah. Blessings, everyone. Please stay.